Hi there, so today is the exciting bit where I have a go at assembling the reverse gear mechanism for the Stuart 10V. So these are all the machined components, and I thought first of all, before trying to attach anything to the little engine, I thought I'd have a go at just assembling the drag link assembly, which connects to this expansion link and this sort of connecting rod. Now I've screwed the little ends onto these rods here, and as I understand it, it's all very fiddly. This goes through there. I don't know whether these will need Loctiting later on, but bearing in mind this is sort of just a test assembly, and I think this goes, looking at the drawing, like that, and then like that, and then put that on there. And then for this end here, I believe this needs to be attached to that. So if we push that through, see, is that screwed on okay? Yep. Ow. Got something stuck in my finger. It's a piece of brass, I think. It's quite a tight fit. Tell you what, I'll go from the other end. A bit better. Push that on there. Then I think that goes like that. And a spacer. And this just goes on the end. So that looks pretty good. Nice and parallel. I think this sort of somehow connects up here like that. And this lever through. Something like that. And then this connects onto here. It's secured with this nut. and then on these bits here, this is where these connect. Not sure which way around at the moment. They'll connect to the eccentrics down here. So what I'll do is I'll go to the little machine and take the valve chest cover off. Okay, so what I need to do is to replace these two studs with inch long studs, and this bottom one here with an inch and 3/32 of an inch stud. So now I need to take this valve rod out by unscrewing it. And I need to replace this fork end with the one I made previously. Well, I've just encountered a little problem. When I made this fork end, I tapped it to 7BA, but on the end of the valve rod it's tapped to 5BA, so what I'm going to have to do is re-drill that and thread it again 5BA. Problem sorted. So what I'll do is I'll just Loctite that on. So the rods that fit onto the eccentric straps have got little lock nuts on them, and from the drawing I think that the straight shaft goes on the rear eccentric and the bent one goes on the front. It sort of brings them in line, sort of like that. So now I'll put it on the crankshaft. I'll just leave it loose for now. So I've screwed the valve rod back in part way, and to do the timing you need to be able to see the actual valve. So what I've done is I've got some washers which are the exact thickness of the valve chest cover. So I've put those in place, and I think what I need to do now is to do the assembly on top of those washers, sort of like that. So it's all quite intricate, so what I'll do is I'll try and attach these bits. Well, what I'll do is I'll put these nuts on here. Bearing in mind there's a bit of guesswork going on now. Seems quite long, does that one? I think this needs a nut putting on first. I'm not so sure why it needs a nut on there, but we'll carry on. So I'm going to have to get in close here. So I need to put this little item in here that runs along there. I've forgotten what the name of that is. And put the bolt through. And then I need to connect these rods up to each side here. I'll have to do that off camera because I just can't get in close at the moment. Well, this is proving to be a right old challenge. So what I've ended up doing is I've undone that bracket there, sort of loosened this bit. I've joined the rods onto the expansion link, and then I've connected the fork end of the valve rod to the expansion link. Now you can see this, I'm trying to get the bottom of a stroke here, and the valve is actually touching the bottom. So what I need to do is I need to undo the fork end again and then unscrew it out a little bit and then give it another try. This is very tedious. I need to make sure that the threaded end here is at the other side, and then I need to get this little bit here, which I still can't remember the name of, in there and put the bolt through and try it again. And the idea is to be able to turn it and to make sure that the top and bottom holes in the valve are exposed equal distances. So that's fully exposed, and I'm still hitting the bottom of that valve, so it needs to be screwed up even more. Something's getting tight there, so I need to investigate that. Right, so I think I know what the problem is. When I did make this, I thought it might be a bit too long, and it is. So it needs shortening, and the thread needs to be cut up to that point. Okay, so I've decided to disconnect the front eccentric, and I'm trying to get the same amount of exposure on the top and bottom port with this rear eccentric. So if I move the flywheel, the bottom port now is fully exposed. Likewise at the opposite end, the top one is now fully exposed. So I'm happy that those dimensions are right. So now what I need to do is to try and get it to work with the other eccentric connected. Well, I must say that took a while to get sorted out. Now I shortened that. I also found that this fork end was catching on the expansion link. But now if I set it on that setting there, I'm getting the full port exposure at that point and getting a full port exposure at that point as well. And if I switch over to the other eccentric, again I'm getting full port exposure at the top there and full port exposure at the bottom. So what I need to do now is to do the timing. So to do that I need to connect the lever. Now I've come across a bit of a problem. When I machined the conrod, there was a requirement to drill a 1/16 of an inch diameter hole, but I drilled it in the wrong side. I've drilled it here instead of here. And the idea is that you position this lever at the top position and make sure that the rear shaft here is in line with the timing rod, and once you've got that position you need to continue drilling up through that existing hole into this pin, and then it needs to be pinned. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to take that conrod off and drill through there as I should have done originally. Okay, so with the handle at the top I've Loctited it onto this shaft here, and with the valve rod in line with the rear eccentric I've then drilled through this connecting rod into the shaft. So what I'll do now is I'll make a little pin just to go in there and I'll Loctite it in place. Okay, so I've found a nail which is about 1 thou over size, so I put it in the little hand drill and just ran it along some emery paper just to reduce it down a bit. So now this fits into the hole, so now it's just a matter of cutting this end off and Loctiting it into the machine. This is a little jeweler's saw which is great for these types of jobs. Okay, so what I've decided is, with the lever in the top position and the rear eccentric engaged with the valve rod, I want the flywheel to turn that way. Now the idea is, as soon as you get to top of stroke, which we're coming up to, just around about that point there, the top port should just start to get exposed, and it is. Now if I engage the other eccentric, the wheel should go the other way, and again once we come up to the top of the piston, the stroke, it should just start to expose the port at the top, and it does. So fingers crossed I've got the timing right. That needed quite a bit of adjustment of the eccentrics, just a bit of trial and error really until I got it right. So what I'll do now is I'll put the cover on the valve chest and we'll give it a try. So this is the moment of truth. So with the lever in that position, the upward position, locked, the flywheel should turn that way. Hey! That's the compressor making that noise. So if we move the lever down, it should move that way. Results! Very happy with that. that was an interesting little project, and I never realised that making a reverse mechanism would be so intricate and quite complicated for me anyway. But I got there in the end, and I'm really happy with the results. One thing I haven't done is to put any Loctite on the drag link ends. I mean, they seem to hold together quite well, but it might be something I'll do in the future. But anyway, if there's anybody out there looking to make a reverse gear mechanism for a Stuart 10V, I hope the series will be of interest. So hope to see you later.